Hello, this is Nigel, and I thought I'd do a bit of a live here. Sunday, what is it, the 2nd of February 2024, and a few things have happened over the last couple of days, and I wanted to say a few words about it. Hi, someone's here. This is actually important. It's very kind of sobering, but what happened is last night there was a car crash right on our doorstep, essentially, right down the end of our drive, and it was about 2 in the morning. I won't give you too much detail of it because it was very personal to some people's lives, and everyone lived through the crash, fortunately, but my wife and I heard it, and we got up and we went down to see what was there and what had happened. And we did hear voices. We thought it was next door neighbours, but it turns out that it was actually the drivers, and the driver and the occupants of the car. They'd done a quick taken off, leaving their car there. So this was a young teenager who has now lost his license as a result of what happened, because it was incredibly lucky that they were even alive. Car flipped and so forth, and this brings me to the more personal point of this whole thing, and my reason for doing this live, and that is that in the front was a bottle of beer. In the back was some codeine, and so it looked like drugs and drink, and driving fast on wet roads and so forth. But this is where I, as a result, and let's say, sorry if this is taking a while to kind of explain, but the owner of the car came and was very upset in the morning, and after all the dust had settled and so forth, and it made me look at what we have here in New Zealand right at the moment. And it is a big problem. When it comes to your doorstep, you know you've got a problem on your hands, and you know your country has a problem. And the problem is that for too long we have been accepting the big pharma in New Zealand as the fix-all, and the oh yes, we can't do without that when it comes to health. Well, actually you can do without it, and I think that a lot more people need to start doing without their medication there, right? And this is not a medical recommendation here. This is actually a health recommendation. And that is that basically those medications are not helping you, they are not helping anyone. They are killing our nation. They are lowering the awareness of people, and as a drug detoxification specialist, I know the effects of drugs, and mentally, and how they close a person down mentally and in their reaction time and so forth. And this may be not a popular broadcast for many people because they love their medication so much and they disagree with what I'm saying, but I am the line that you have to cross to, you know, it's like you want to ignore me, then, you know, we can have a destroyed nation, sure, you know, but understand that you're crossing that line when you ignore me on this matter. There are healthy alternatives to the drugs, the medications that you are having, and the ramifications, the effect that it has on the wider community is maybe more than most people realise, I would have to say. The difference in awareness that you can have without being on medication is huge, because over the years, over a very, very gradual process, your awareness gets shut down and shut down and shut down. And when you were a kid, perhaps, you remember being very alive and having a lot of fun and so forth. And when you, as you get older and so forth, you might have had various situations where you had medication, antibiotics, whatever, you know, aspirin, Disprin, Panadol, paracetamol, and so forth. I mean, even by the time you've got out of your childhood, your parents have dosed you up with something, usually, and a lot of people were on many medications. This is BS, to put it nicely. We have a nation that when a certain drug isn't funded by the government anymore, people get all upset and jump up and down, and you know, that is just evidence of how pathetic we have become as a society, in where we need our medication. Need? Give me a break, you know. This is ridiculous when you know, people are losing their lives because of these drugs in horrific car accidents because somebody was not aware enough, not awake enough to actually have common sense kick in and put a barrier there of like, no, I shouldn't do that. Where did common sense go? Well, don't look any further if you're on medications, because even if you think, oh no, I'm good, even though I've got my medications, my heart meds and my you know, insulin or whatever it is, right? You know, that I'm focused, you know, and all that. Well, how do you know how focused you are if over decades or over a long period of time or years, whatever, that you have gradually, incrementally lost units of your awareness and you've come down from what you really are capable of? And what you are capable of is something, if you don't change, you may never know. You may never know what you're capable of. And the beauty that you can experience in life, like what's behind me here, the trees and so forth, yeah, you know, the real beauty, you know, drugs even dull perception, they dull colours, they dull smell, you know, the sense of smell, they dull the sense of taste, and even the drugs themselves become dull over the time, where a person needs more of it to actually get the same result. And that's true of any drug. The body becomes sort of accustomed to it, and then it just kind of doesn't do the same effect, so there's a gradual increase needed. Now, when I was down there cleaning up some of the mess, and there were cars driving past, and the idiots driving shit, you know, like way over, like 80k and stuff, past an accident site, seeing it and not thinking anything. And this is with trailers and everything. I mean, again, it's like, what are these people? There's nobody home, right? Hello, no one home with these people. They cannot understand how to even take their foot off the accelerator for a moment, slow down, and then speed up again if they so require it. But a lot of these people, I've seen them when driving around. It's like they're all in a hurry to get nowhere. They want to pass you so they can pull in at the next coffee shop, cafe, to get their next fix of coffee to mix with all of their medications. This is ridiculous. Hi Dixie, and good to see Hayley and Lynette there too. But I'm putting this call out. It really, I have, for my lifetime, I've wanted and worked toward helping people, helping society, and helping uplift society. A lot of people mightn't think that. Hi Barry. A lot of people mightn't think that they think, oh well, I'm a serious dude who, I don't know what people think, and it doesn't really matter, but I am just who I am, and a lot of what I do and what I have done is not something that you would necessarily hear about or know about. I've told of a few things that I've done, but I don't make a big noise about it. Actually, the things I do say, people go, oh, yeah, he's shooting off at his mouth about this or that. Well, you don't know the half of what I've done for people and for this country even. But anyway, as I say, I'm not going to bother going into that. But I do care, and that's the point. And somewhere or another, we have to turn this country around. I had hoped on something happening a bit sooner than now. And I see there's some good people who are trying to do things. There's Clay Drummond. There's some others. Who are standing up. I saw a video the other day of somebody. Who was that? Anyway, it doesn't matter. There are good people out there doing work and talking to people and trying to help people and so forth. But it must have something to do with getting people off medications. That's the point I'm making. It has to be that. Honestly, these medications are killing people. They are killing people. And they are killing our society. They're killing our imagination, our creativity. That's what drugs do. Any drugs, right? They kill your ability to think clearly with pictures in your mind. So imagination is so important. It is one of the most important abilities you have, because when you go to solve a problem, you use your imagination. If something's on a high shelf, you've got to think, well, how am I going to get up to that high shelf to reach it, to get it down, right? There is where you require your imagination, right? That's just one silly little example, but all through your life, right? Where's the toilet paper? Oh, what can I do without? We won't even go there, but imagination is a vital ability. Thanks, Dixie, for your comment there. So it's like we have to cut out the medications, and to do that, you actually have to start learning about natural nutrition, right? What is your body? What is good for your body? Well, for example, seed oils, the vegetable oils that they sell are bad for you. And if vegetable fats, the saturated fats, are actually good. So there's something you can change, because it actually affects your stomach and so forth. If you're having all these vegetables, and that goes with fries and all of that, right? Well, that's the fries are all, that turns to sugar, and so you're actually going diabetic. You're just working on affecting your health right there. Oh yeah, well then what happens? Then you need to go to the doctor and get tests. Well, you know, before you go to any doctor about anything, start looking at what symptoms do I have? Okay, what am I doing in my life? What am I doing in my diet that is actually causing this? Because, you know, there's a whole subject there, and if you don't know, then you shouldn't be going to the doctor in the first place, because you haven't done your work. Your personal responsibility to yourself is to keep yourself healthy. And if you're going to the doctor and asking him what's wrong with you, you don't know your body well enough. You do not know your body well enough if you're asking a doctor what's wrong with you. Because anyone who has learned about nutrition, who has taken responsibility for eating the right things, will know what's wrong with themselves, right? Yeah, so this is my my lecture. You know, it might sound like I'm telling you off. I'm not. You know, it's probably I'm talking to the converted, but I've got to say something. Hey, Barry, they work on depletion of our imagination, hence all the MSM propaganda and distractions. We don't need it any longer. Yeah, and you know, I had to turn my phone from 2.5 gig to 5 gig to do this video. I don't do that very often, so you're probably getting this at a better reception rate. And why don't I do that? Because these phones, the radiation level from them is incredibly bad, and that goes for all Wi-Fi and so forth, right? I'd love to throw my phone away and never have to use it, but it is what it is, and our society is quite dependent on phones. But at least we can limit it, and you know, even recently I've been kind of taking some extra steps to limit that too. So yeah, that's part of it, I think. This thing about, you know, the tragic thing about it. This is okay. I've got another thought coming here. The tragic thing about it is that I'm actually trained. I'm one of the highest trained on the planet in terms of drug detoxification, with the most sophisticated drug detox technology on the planet, right? And this is acknowledged by scientists, because it actually is capable of detoxing radiation from the body. And there are very few, if anything, that really can significantly make a difference on that, and this technology does. So, yet, although I'm trained in that, I'm not recognised as a specialist in New Zealand, and in fact I'm treated as a nobody, a layman, a person like anyone. And the people who are in charge know less about what they're talking about than I do. And that's without saying that I know it all. I'm not trying to convince you I know more than everyone else or anything like that. It's just the way it is. But further than that, I'll go further than that. That even if you throw that idea out and say, oh well, he's not qualified or whatever, okay, well look around you, because how many drug detoxification centres does the government have? How many drug detoxification specialists does the government have? I'll tell you, zero, right? They have nothing, right? Now that is because the government are not trying to get people off drugs, they are trying to get people onto drugs. Let me say that again. The government of New Zealand is not trying to get people off drugs, they are trying to get people onto drugs. They're trying to hook you onto drugs, and that is a result of medical lobbying by these so-called experts who say, oh, they need this, they need that. The people were calling out for this, the people were calling out for that. So when you go to the doctor and you say, oh, I've got this and I've got that, you're actually contributing to the problem, because now there's an extra New Zealander who needs heart medication, an extra New Zealander who needs diabetes medication and so forth. And then they go to those doctors, and the doctors say, oh yes, we need that because we've got 200 patients, we can show you the register, that have heart conditions, for example. And the government go, oh yeah, and they can lobby the government for funds, and they can get their medications accepted, approved, stamped, signed off, and into circulation. And you wonder why we have car crashes and why we have stupid roads that are supposed to be built for safety, but they're actually now so one lane with wire ropes down the middle and so forth, so you can't get anywhere because they're treating everybody as 5-year-olds in cars, because people act like 5-year-olds in cars. Yeah, so anyway, that's what a sad state, huh? But you know, the thing is that things can change, and I believe that's why I put out this message, is because I live in hope that somebody's going to hear it, somebody's going to notice, and if I get one person off drugs, then that would be a good thing too. And there have been a number of people I know who have stopped taking drugs or drink as a result of what I've done in the past. Yeah. You know, I will say that I've mentioned a lot of times when I went over to Russia and I set up a detoxification program through Russia, and you know, since that time, which I was there in 1998 to 2001, so it's a long time ago now, but since that point in time, Russia has been doing incredibly well. And I'm not saying it's only because of what I did, because at the time Putin just got in office and he's done a lot of reforms and so forth, but at that time, you know, there was a change going on, and the young people in Russia were rejecting alcohol as the solution. And in a lot of ways, Russians were lucky because they didn't have the Western drug companies coming in. They were starting to come in while I was there, and they were starting to advertise, like in the subways and so forth. And thank you, Barry. And you know, and I saw those ads in the subways, and I'm like, oh no, you know, it broke my heart when I saw those ads for Western drug companies coming into Russia, and I thought, no, this is not what they need. These people are beautiful. These people are really, they're awake, and they have focused attention. They're sensible. They have common sense. Amazing. And they don't need to be ruined by Western degradation. And anyway, there was those ads. Well, just after that, Putin booted out a lot of the Western countries, and if there are any medications and stuff in Russia now, they pretty much what they develop themselves, and they did improve it, you know. But as a matter of interest, a lot of the doctors and psychiatrists even in Russia do not use drugs much in their treatment. They use nutrition, they use vitamins and so on, and they actually give people vitamin prescriptions in Russia, literally. I'm not saying that drugs don't exist there. They have, they even at the time then, that was in 1998, 2001, as I say, there was stuff like Prozac getting in there. I don't know whether it's still in there or not. I don't know, you know, but at least there was some restraint being put on it. But I'm saying that you know, Russia has done better economically. They're doing better than the West, even though they've had all these sanctions on them. They've gone out and virtually won the Ukraine war, despite having hundreds of billions of dollars thrown to Ukraine to fund their side of it. Russia's not there, so not stopped by that, and they will win the Ukraine war. They will, absolutely, no question about it. There's not a question, right? They will win, and so that's sort of slightly moving over to another subject. Yeah. Wow, it was quite a night last night, you know, with this accident and stuff. So I guess it's just one of those wake-up calls, and maybe it was meant to be. But I wanted to put this info out there. As I say, it just gets me where I see that was so we really still have a chance to change the direction of this country. We have a chance, right? I'm not saying it's a very good chance, but we can, and it will be because people stop taking their bloody medications and start actually thinking for themselves instead of driving like frickin' maniacs, and then their children and their children's children, you know, it becomes a thing of children. You know, you set the example for your children. You know, when you drink, they drink. When you take drugs, they take drugs. You know, if you go to the doctor for medication, they will go to the doctor for medication. You set the example for them, and that continuum goes on. Yeah. So. I mean, I talked to the relative of the person who crashed this car, and she was devastated, and she had had a very difficult life too, and that is what really got me. And I thought, you know, I can see this intergenerational decay going on here. You know, people have to, you know, we have to start getting back to basics. I mean, okay, Christopher Luxon's reading, writing, whatever, you know, putting in the basics. Okay, that, to me, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree. I mean, I know Christopher Luxon is you know, comes from the same school as Jacinda Ardern, figuratively, you know, in the same as John Key and the rest of them. They're all part of the same rubbish, that driftwood that somehow gets to rule the country, and they're actually puppets to the overseas powers that actually own the country. And as much as Christopher Luxon maybe thinks he's a great leader, and Jacinda Ardern thinks that she was a great leader, the reality will show, and is the country doing better? And that, you know, is not far enough, right? It's not far enough. School lunches, good thing, you know. That ticks all the boxes for me. I think it's a sensible move. There's got to be better education to where children become literate, properly literate, where they can read books, you know, not just not just read a page, but actually have the concentration to read an entire book and so forth. But to be able to have the focus, you know, that's another thing. And a lot of that is also comes back down to what are they being fed, you know, what's their diet. And if the parents are feeding them a lot of sugar, if their parents are feeding them a lot of medications and so forth, then, you know, it's a thing, you know. It's a, what do we do here, or what do we do next? And this isn't to attack anybody or anything or anyone at all. I'm just looking at, okay, where can we improve? And I as I say, I go back to this big pharma thing. We've got to get off the medications. There is another thing that I will say as well, is that the Lake Alice inquiry and the childcare, what is it? whatever they call it, inquiry recently, and they apologised and there's been payouts and so forth. But there's another very key point that I think needs to happen with that, and that is that there are 24 ECT, electroconvulsive devices, ECT, electroconvulsive therapy devices, in public hospitals around New Zealand. I know because I wrote the letter requesting through Official Information Act for the number of devices, and they had to send that letter to every health department in New Zealand, all the oh God, what do you call it? Lost for words today. All the regions anyway. And so I got about 20 letters back from different regions, and they said, oh yes, we got 1, we got 2, we got 3, whatever. And it turned out, when I added them all up, I think it's about 24. But those electroconvulsive devices, which were used for torture of young boys' genitals at Lake Alice in the 1970s by a top psychiatrist, by the way. This is not just an amateur. This guy was one of their top, right? And he was torturing boys' genitals with that ECT. And yet they haven't taken those out of the hospitals. And I think that they need to take those out. They need to get rid of those devices, because the psychiatrists have already proven they're not responsible enough to have anything like that in their hands. These devices do not help people whatsoever. Whatever they do, they send 400 volts through the brain, they fry parts of the brain, and the person is left vegetative, right? In other words, they lose whole sections of their memory. And some people say that's good, because if they have had a very bad past, then they don't remember it anymore. Well, you know, the way to solve that is counselling, actually, and that can be achieved. But once you burn out a person's brain, it doesn't revert. You cannot do, and it doesn't affect them in just their memories. It affects them in all of their mechanical life, their being able to do various functions and so forth. It affects their memory in all ways, right? So it's a terrible, terrible torture device, and that New Zealand government should have and New Zealand Health Department should have a device that can torture people in their hands is, to me, unconscionable. It's unconscionable. It should not be permitted, and it shows you how idiotic and how lynch mob that this society actually is, right? It's just shocking that anybody thinks that that's even okay, or, oh yeah, well, I didn't know about that. Okay. That's just crazy, right? I mean, these devices have to be kicked out of the hospitals. Do you know that also in a I've never had psychiatric treatment, by the way. I've never have, right? So it's not about that. It's nothing personal. When I was raised as a kid, my dad was helping a couple of psychiatric survivors, and they both actually died in hospital in Christchurch and Sunnyside. One of them suicided. The other one, one of them suicided, I think, by hanging. The other one suicided by their own pills, because they were different. One of them was actually a very bright guy, young guy, Lindsay Randall, and he was an incredible mathematician and a very bright guy, but his parents wanted him to be a lawyer, and he didn't want to be, and so they put him into the psych ward and called him mad. and yeah, it killed him. He was, I don't know what he would have been probably about 25, 28, something like that. The other one was an older guy, Stan someone. I'm just trying to recall, this is when I was a kid. And he also, my dad would describe what happened to these guys. But what I was going to say is that to this day, the in a court of law, the psychiatrist, his opinion determines whether a person is sane or not. Now, is that wrong or is that wrong? These are people, the psychiatrists, who in New Zealand have been documented for sexually abusing patients, for torturing genitals, for all sorts of horrific, acts. And yet they are the ones who tell us who's sane and who isn't. Yeah, right, as Tui Ad would say. It's crazy, right? So, you understand what I'm saying here, right? We're being strangled, we're being like suffocated by big pharma and the medicos who supposedly, just get out of the sun here a little bit, they call themselves experts, but they're actually experts at killing people, experts at divesting a person of their original liveliness, their elan vital, their life source. They destroy a person gradually over the years, bit by bit, on these things, right? And so we need to end our need for big pharma. We need to end this, as I say, where we have these ECT machines, tortured machines in New Zealand hospitals, and it's all very, very clinical and clean, and oh yes, we've got that. Oh yes, it does help people though, it does help people. And you know what that's called? That's called coercion, and is actually against human rights to coerce any patient. So it was against the Bill of Rights. Well, they're trying to destroy the Bill of Rights, from what I understand, if they still even have it in New Zealand. Coercion. It's when you talk to somebody and you talk them into thinking that something is a good idea without giving them full information. That's coercion, right? That is how these dirty bastards actually operate. And I'm labelling all the doctors pretty much the same, except for the ones who stood up during the COVID thing and said, we're not having a bar of this. Those are the true heroes. Those people who stood up and said, well, I'm a doctor, I'm not somebody who actually harms people. They differentiated. The doctors who know what's happening and don't do a thing, the people out there in society who know what's happening and don't do anything, these are people who are culpable, who need to wake up and smell the coffee, see that there are serious repercussions when you turn a blind eye to what's going on. There are serious repercussions, and there are lives that get destroyed as a result. And that is what I care about. We've got to stop this. We've got to get to where we're, like caring about people more, and it goes in our driving, it goes in everything, right? Well, I hope I've gotten through to somebody about something, and I see some good people on here, so that's good. And share this around if you once I've posted it, if it makes a difference for some people, maybe somebody who is thinking about medication or whatever, and you can honestly, you can research up. I've got a group page called Natural Healing, I think it's called, which I post all sorts of remedies and stuff on there. But it's easy enough to find on YouTube, or lots of things coming through on Facebook even, of the dangers of eating certain things, or or what remedies to help with certain things. I've learned a lot myself from all of that. It's good. Never stop learning if you are open to it and you know where to look. Well, have a good one, and yeah, I'll be around. Cheers. Okay, see ya.